Hi, guys. I'm Adrian. And today's show, True Detective. True Detective is already one of my favorite shows. I've only seen season one and I had to rewatch it to make a video. True Detective follows Marty and Russ as they navigate being partners, navigate their own lives, and try to catch a killer over a multi year span. Russ has a few ways to put his ideals in a nutshell. He doesn't seem very grateful for human life, or rather, he doesn't value it as much for those he feels undeserving. Russ does not believe in the concept of faith. Russ finds comfort in fact, what is known and what can be discovered. Russ also seems to reject human companionship. He prefers isolation in his everyday life. Marty very much appreciates human life. He's a man of faith, maybe not the strongest faith, but it's still there. He needs human companionship and understands the pros and cons of having a family and not. Marty is not a man who desires isolation. Marty is the typical man. He has his problems, but he tries to do better. He's in touch with his fellow man and his feelings, while Russ understands them, but doesn't seem to let it affect him. This contrast shows a great service when they both end up lonely at the same time in life. They are both lonely, isolated, but it's made them who they are, made them more of themselves. We see these men's true desires come to life when they have forced themselves into isolation one way or another. I go home, both of them say. This is why they kind of miss each other after the case and how the animosity is dropped pretty easily. Through this isolation, the men have formed bond no matter how much Russ tries to reject it. I also love how organic the comedy is. It's never the writers trying to make a joke, it's simply how the characters clash. Russ is in no way a funny guy. Marty definitely has a sense of humor, but isn't particularly funny. But when these two exchange dialogue, it is some of the greatest laughs I've gotten in film. Now, for someone who is sworn to protect human life, why does Russ take such poor care of himself? Russ had a bad childhood, which made him the way he is and never got to have his child at all. This seems to be the reason for his bleak outlook on life. Being such a realist, he struggles to make sense of why the world allowed his baby not to grow up. This reinforces his lack of faith and brutal transparency toward human emotion. To add insult to injury, he lost his wife because he lost his baby. The one person who anyone thought who could ever love him is gone from his life. And the one person that he could love unconditionally never made it. So now, what does he have to live for? He attempts to live for the job. His consumption to the job results in reckless and partially illegal pursuit of this cult like killer. Both Russ and Marty were both married. Russ became his best self when he had someone, and Marty knew that him having someone was the key to him being his best self. Marriage is also where they saw the worst in themselves. Marty saw how he could hurt the ones he loved, and Russ found out how much hurt he could endure. Russ almost seems to be a victim of circumstance, while Marty seems to be creating poor circumstances. The show shows both sides of the coin. When the world is good to you and you can't do it right, and when you try to do it right, the world won't do well by you. Now that they have gotten to know themselves, know what love is and what it means to lose it, they truly have a better understanding for human life. This is why when Marty sees the video, he has a panic attack. He can't see it because he has kids of his own who he loves and understands what it is to wrong a child. Russ has emotions, but only processes it as information. He uses his emotions to understand the opposite side and the logic that goes with the situation. This case got so serious, they went off the books as private investigators to solve it. Russ and Marty essentially went rogue. And the AK scene was just epic. I like how they paint this gray line of operations outside of the usual confines of the law. I love how the whole season not only has an intriguing case, but focuses on the characters and how beautifully they blend. They are in no means comparable, with Marty being the relatable character to Russ being the literal embodiment of human hopelessness, or maybe I should say faithfulness. A man with a family that believes in God has repercussions for his actions. A man that is alone can't disappoint anyone, can't hurt anyone. can't be hurt by anyone. Russ's outlook on life was already apparent, but him losing his child and wife was a really hard nail in the coffin. The show forces you to understand and sympathize with Russ, as Marty is a more relatable character. You understand why he is the way he is, and I love that the writers accomplished that. He had a bad childhood, which essentially made him emo. Then he had a bad adulthood, which furthered his emo. Then he got one of the most depressing jobs ever, murder police. This is only deepened by how much he drinks and can easily indulge in drugs. We see this epic episode where I'm pretty sure he's literally smoking crack in the name of catching this killer. Marty has a problem with attractive younger women. And as a 20-year-old, who can blame him? You know what I'm saying? I mean, she, yeah. Anyway. But I'm smart enough to know at Marty's age, he should have no problem being committed to one woman. This is also reinforced by the fact that he has kids with her. Now, again, I'm 20 years old, but his wife is very attractive. And although they have their issues and dry spells, they still love each other very, very dearly and are willing to work through their issues. I think the show makes the affair even more relatable and easy to digest in that the younger woman looks like a younger version of his wife. It's not a secret that we're in our prime in our 20s, and I believe Marty and his wife are mid 40s to mid 50s. This relatability is something I love about the film. When the audience can understand the character's true intentions, it opens up so much more to the deep psyche of a man. This by no means is saying this is okay, but acknowledging how we can understand makes the journey much more fun to read and unpack. Marty's wife is a strong individual. She worked her ass off and pushed her way to wealth. Her marriage with Marty hardened her, but in a more bleak sense. She knew Marty was a good man and the father of her children, yet he couldn't stop hurting her. This in turn hurt her faith in what a good man was. Now, any person can understand Russ's descent. He found the love of his life, the only person that could possibly and ever understand him. He then was going to have a child with her, someone to carry on his lineage and to start his family. When the baby dies, so does the relationship, and it's very understandable and relatable on all ends. Unfortunately, Russ's bleak nature only made this worse, and is why we have the interesting yet treacherously mental character we have now. Post marriage, Russ enjoys putting people at their lowest, or at very least likes to see it. He's been at his lowest for a long time, and he has no problem putting criminals and other people there. He studies how to bring people to their lowest, and he studies what people do at their lowest. He excels at it. It's how he breaks his suspects. He brings them to their lowest, studies that, and attacks them with it, almost like life did to him. The world hurt him. The world hurt him at his most innocent. It turned him into a faithless and emotionally strained being. Then he saw hope, the one thing he didn't think existed. The world got him at his most vulnerable to find love and have faith in his future, only for the world to then stomp him for it. Russ never recovered. Anytime Marty tries to confide in Russ, he rejects it. Anytime Russ expresses his emotion, it's too dark for Marty or for anyone to handle for that matter. It is unbelievable to Marty how little empathy Russ has. He completely understands people's emotions and what makes them feel the way they do, but it's almost as if he rejects those emotions himself. Marty is, in fact, a prisoner of his emotions. He can't contain his sexual desires and often operates off how he feels. He cheats on his wife, and the case becomes more personal when it strikes his nerves. We see Marty be very reactionary when something exhibits strong emotional response. Marty has kids as well, so the killers they chase only hits home harder. Russ is a prisoner of his emotions as well. He rejects them, but in turn does a 69 and makes his own emotions manifest into something deeper, something stronger. It's as if Russ sunk into himself and to this infinite depression. Like all the negative emotions are perpetuated through his everyday life and through everything he's been through in the past, as if there's nothing that can make him happy, and he's accepted that. True Detective was an excellent watch. I hope the other three seasons are as good as this one. I've heard things, but I'll watch them for myself. We got some epic characters with a great storyline, and I hope we can do the same for the rest of the show. Anyway, Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.